All right, Professor, let's get the show on the road.
Okay.
I'll start with a brief introduction, and I know that there's a couple of people that are joining remotely as well. Hello to everybody. So I'd like to thank Dr. Jack to join in from New York. What we want to do today is, my name is Ramnik. I'm the chapter leader for Columbia Business School here in Dubai. And like I said, what we wanted to do today was have sort of an open discussion on what the entrepreneurship program by Columbia Business School is. We have one cohort that's already started in October, and we've got some great responses. So we'll have sort of Dr. Jack talk a little about in general about the program as well. And we can encourage you to ask any questions that you have during the course of this program. And we are recording the session, so we share this with the counselors, and they can then share it with parents in case the parents want to review it and have follow-up questions and everything else. So, Dr. Jack, if it's okay with you, I'll introduce you briefly, and then you could take it forward.
Sure.
Great. So Dr. Jack is the faculty at Columbia Business School. He is he leads the Venture for All initiative, and the entrepreneurship program that's a part of the Venture for All program is really to sort of enhance the entrepreneurship ecosystem. We have a lot of students today who have brilliant ideas, but necessarily may not know how to transition those ideas into a business model or a business plan. So we work with the students through a 10-week online program and help them in getting their idea from a concept stage all the way to a business plan stage. So, and Dr. Jack, of course, has been instrumental in helping and working with a lot of students over the last 8-9 years to across the world, Singapore, Hong Kong, India, Eastern Europe, and now, of course, in the UAE. So, Dr. Jack, over to you.
Of course. So, and just let me know, give me once in a while if somebody has a question, just feel free to just chime in, or Ramnik, or those on the outside from that location. Feel free to put in a question in chat, and we'll try to manage all this. Okay. So so thanks again for coming together and to hear a little bit more about what we're doing here at the university. Columbia Business School has been running this program, which is called Venture for All. Now we're in our 7th year, though I've been with the university for 20 years and have been doing similar programs in different arenas for the majority of that time. But I got interested, I actually started in engineering. I was a dean over in the engineering school, and got interested in working with the engineering students in entrepreneurship as part of what I was working on, and that sort of evolved into this program eventually. I've also, though I teach now in the mostly in the MBA program and some other graduate programs here at the university, I have always had an active focus on high school students and even middle school students to some extent, and have been teaching high school students both in engineering design as well as in entrepreneurship for almost all these 20 years. And Columbia itself has an active summer high school program, which you could look up, but I teach in it every year. So so what are we talking about here? So we started doing online teaching in the last couple of years, and as Ramnik mentioned, we we're right in the middle of doing an online program in the UAE across 4 schools within Abu Dhabi and Dubai. And we think the model's working well, and we look forward to expanding it. So again, unless anyone has any particular question on background here, I'll just jump right into the program itself. So first, let's talk a little bit about the philosophy of the program. So this is a very applied kind of course, and it's the type of course and the type of pedagogy that I've been focused on my whole career, which is using an applied approach to teaching the subject matter. So as I said to you earlier, when I taught engineering design for over a decade, actually the required course in engineering design at the engineering school here at Columbia. And the program was based on the students doing and working on real local projects, local design projects. So they had, from the beginning, they had a real problem to solve. They had real customers, okay, and they had real commitments to making this happen. So it was much more than just a grade or just another subject. This was there was a commitment made on every student to make sure that they satisfied the customer with a successful and usable design project. And entrepreneurship, I've been teaching the same way ever since I started teaching entrepreneurship, and it's the way in fact, I teach the advanced applied version of this course that we're going to talk about now to the MBAs and also to some of the graduate schools students across the university. So and it's what I'm going to be teaching your high school students is a variation of it, and the variation is mostly related to the amount of effort that they put in, because it's I understand that this is an after-school type program, so we narrowed down some of the assignments so that the high school students are able to do that. But I'll come back to that. So the criteria for the projects, basically what happens is the students will form teams. They can self-select teams if they like, and so they can work together. And that's a nice added value to an online course, is to create, especially if you happen to be across different schools and you want to associate or team up with people in other locations, you can. But basically, within a small, what I'll call a founders team, they work on a startup idea that is absolutely feasible and doable for students of that age, of that level of development, if you will, access to resources and things to that nature. So they have to work on a project that is quite doable. And I may also add that a lot of times this drives, especially the younger generation, to working on socially oriented enterprises where they're trying to solve a problem for some sort of underserved population. So that's an added benefit. It doesn't have to be. Certainly, we've had students that have created food products. We've had students that have created fashion lines. We've had students, I'm talking about high school students, by the way. But we've had a lot of high school students. You actually see, high school students that have created some really amazing social enterprises and gone on to great successes, actually. In fact, it's interesting. I'll give you a couple examples. So we had one young woman in New Delhi who created something we've done in New York, and maybe you do it in the UAE, I don't know, but where you take food from the better restaurants, the leftover food, and you organize it to feed the homeless or some underserved population. They did not have that in New Delhi, and Bonnie not only created that particular organization, but took it much further and created a fully formed organization to do that. So it wasn't a one-time event; it was an ongoing operation. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this, and the reason why I believe that there's a value proposition for the high school students, especially as they start to think about going to competitive colleges and universities, is that Bonnie was able to take the project that she worked on in the 10-week class, or in a class, and turn it into a very impressive operation and a narrative, for a personal narrative for herself. She went on to not only run this, but there's actually a YouTube video of her speaking to the United Nations here in New York about the program and the importance of doing these kinds of programs. So you have a 17-year-old, as she's just about ready to apply to colleges, speaking to the UN. All right. So this is a good example of someone that starts a project that's for real, and then takes it to fruition, and then becomes an advocate for it. And uses that as part of her narrative for applying to schools. So we have a lot of situations like that. We have a young, in fact, some people will ask me, maybe you're even thinking it already, where it might be, can a ninth grade, can a rising 10th grader or a ninth grader, is this too much for them? Well, we've had some great successes with ninth graders. And we had one in another part of India that actually started a middle school science club. All right, he was just starting high school, but he started a middle school after-school science club, which is now in something like 15 plus middle schools in his local region. And this was actually a for-profit business. He didn't set it up as a nonprofit, but as a for-profit. And his father likes to say, I don't know if it's totally true or not, but I'll quote him, that his son became one of the youngest Indian citizens that have to pay income taxes. So I'll leave that to you to decide. But the effort and the outcome was extremely impressive. And again, I think he's actually just about coming up to college age, so it'll be interesting to see how he capitalizes on this experience. But he's done an amazing job. So that's just sort of to give you a sense of the kinds of projects that we want the students to work with. And in the current cohort, we took a couple of weeks to work with the students to go over things. And even if they were interested in a particular area, that was okay. But sometimes they'd have a big vision, and we'd strip it down. I give you a quick example, and these are projects in progress, so it may still evolve differently. But we had a group of students that wanted to start a specific kind of restaurant in Abu Dhabi, and they had a very interesting and creative idea for doing it. But we kind of thought that maybe it needed to be scaled back, so they're now sort of thinking about maybe start it as either a food truck concept or maybe some sort of kiosk kind of situation. So going from a full-fledged restaurant, but maybe starting as a kiosk or some mobile kind of operation. Something, again, with some assistance they can probably do. I'm not saying they couldn't do the restaurant, but all of you know that would take a lot more resources and time. And it wouldn't necessarily be feasible for high school students at that point. So let me just stop for a minute and just see, are there any questions about sort of the approach and the philosophy? Then I'll get into the class itself. Ramnik, any questions on that end that you can organize or type in?
I actually have sort of one input. I was talking to one of the parents, and they were really interested. This parent, he said, my daughter is really good at science and she's relatively good at art, but I want her to understand and get sort of the business skills as well. And I thought that was a really interesting discussion because he said that it doesn't matter if my daughter goes into business school or not. I mean, it was just more like I want the skill set, and I feel that entrepreneurship will help in.
Yes. So you want me to respond now, right? So yeah, listen, just because we're teaching in the business school, it doesn't mean that we expect everybody that takes this class to go to business school, or that we see it in any way, shape, or form as even related in a sense. But I will say, if you go back, if you just start with first my MBA class has cross-registrants all over the university. And it's become clear in that experience that almost in every single situation I can think of, whether it's medical doctors, whether it's journalists, whether it's clinical psychologists, whether it's public health people, whether it's law school, etc. Every school recognizes that their students most likely will need to have some basic business knowledge to work in the 21st century. All right? I mean, it's just the way it is. Lawyers, for the most part, have to be entrepreneurs. Doctors have to be entrepreneurs. I mean, and it's clear, and we're getting a lot of students from these other schools, even teachers. Teachers are absolutely coming in to, either find ways to add to their income being entrepreneurs, or starting educational startups outside of their maybe their teaching.
Dr. Jack, sorry to interrupt. It seems that Ramnik has lost the connection. He's rejoining in, so yeah. So we may have to readdress his question.
No sweat. I was on a roll.
Sorry, Dr. Jack. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can
hear you.
Yep, we can.
Okay, all right. Well, we were able to hear you, by the way. It's just that I was talking and I had lost audio, so I couldn't speak. But we were able to hear you clearly.
Good.
So there was no lag over there. So yeah. Just to sort of briefly reiterate, I wasn't sure where you guys lost me. The interest levels over here is just how students can acquire multiple skills while they're in school. And another interesting point that I want to highlight over here is that for students that are in grade 12 or year 12 and above, who are looking at a specific stream to take forward in their undergrad courses, the thought process is a bit different. But a lot of the parents who come to me, and I'm sure for Dr. Jack as well, is that the year 9s and the year 10s, the parents are a bit concerned about whether their kids are old enough to understand or to be able to sort of participate in discussions on entrepreneurship. And just to reiterate what Dr. Jack said over here was that it is those years where they're sort of thinking about new ideas and where they need to be sort of trained, their minds need to be trained on how they can focus those ideas and get it together to create these kind of business plans. So just wanted to bring that as a thought, that it's very interesting that the lower age groups actually, it's more applicable for them than the higher age groups. Go ahead, Dr. Jack, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, and I think it's not applicable is not the right word, but the value proposition is different, right? So certainly the younger students, 9th graders, 10th graders can handle the content. That's clear. And in fact, in some ways, they for some reason they tend to do better in certain things. They have certainly the math skills are there already. All the cognitive skills that they need are there. And this actually, I mean, if you think about, I mean, look, let me put it this way: the business skills themselves are not difficult to understand. I mean, and that's true at almost any level except for some theoretical level. Again, I'm talking about a very applied class. So, but if you think about the sort of meta skills that they're developing here, these are critical for any years here, especially for those that are going to be getting into college and that kind of thing. So for example, we'll have research skills, right? Research skills are important. They're important in high school. They're important in college. They become even more important in college, maybe. And so the way that they learn to do some of the market research and to that mix primary and secondary resources and make sure they reference them properly and all the kinds of things that you need to do, we have all that. So research skills is one. Team skills, you know, collaboration skills, another critical skill that gets developed in a course like this. Project management skills and time management and personal organization and or group organization. This is critical. I mean, I can tell you most adults are not good at this. All right. So to have, you know, young, you know, men and women be able to understand how to manage how to envision a project, structure it so they meet, you know, goals, they set goals, they meet goals. They know how to kind of step through the process and get things done on time is a critical skill in every walk of life, and it becomes even more critical after college. So a course like this has that kind of structure and teaches them the importance of that sort of project structure. All right, communication, right? So this class focuses on different types of communication. They don't do a lot of writing in this class, but there is some. But they certainly do a lot of presenting, practicing and presenting. They need to do a lot of graphical communication. So that's another very important communication venue, and things to that nature. So, you know, I think that when you think about the core sets of skills that they learn on top of the basic business content, and you would learn, it wouldn't matter what the content is, those core skills are happening because they're working on a real an authentic project that is doable, and they're working on it in a very applied way. Okay, so I don't, Ramne, anything else you want me to say about this? But that's the basics.
Just a couple of questions on how the program is actually delivered. So, Professor, if you can talk a little about Canvas and what the students go through on a week-to-week basis.
Yep.
A couple of questions that were asked was how much time in a week does a student have to?
Like now, right? So this is real time. You're there. I'm here. We're talking. You know, it's not. I'm not pre-recorded, and the questions are coming live. That's to us, this is what, you know, we're talking about here. So 10 weeks of synchronous lecture for 90 minutes a week. All right, so that's part one. Within those 10 modules in those 10 weeks, what we do is we have created a series of assignments and which are very structured, and we've even created worksheets, literally worksheets for every assignment, so that provides the students with sort of prompts or guiding questions to help them think through the things that they need to be thinking through about their business venture at the time that they need to think about it. So they're not thinking about, you know, branding before they're thinking about, you know, some of the, like, what the idea is or what the problem is. They're not thinking about developing a product until they really understand their customer and things like that. But what's happening is, on a week-by-week basis, after discussing the basic content, what ends up happening is they then go ahead and fill out these worksheets. Each week, the assignments are reviewed by an instructor in the class we're doing now. That's me. And we provide each founding team or each founder video feedback. All right. So what we're doing. So think about that. So this, and we do this, by the way, in the MBA class as well, in between each week. So we're providing feedback on that particular worksheet. So we review the work that the students did, each individual venture has submitted, and then we go ahead and we provide, you know, short 3-4 minute video. And that sort of allows the student to get some personalized feedback on top of the discussion that we have in the next class about the assignments. and that's when we answer questions and we go over, maybe we show some examples of assignments and things to that nature. Now, to answer maybe the third part, I think, or the next part to answer is how much time do they spend in between class? And I would say, you know, if I had to take a guess, I would say if a team or an individual student spends, you know, 90 minutes outside of the class time within a week, that should be relatively sufficient. All right. I've always felt that you know, you basically duplicate the amount of time in a class. So the MBAs, you know, we do 4-hour-a-week class. You know, they should do about 4 hours of homework. So I think it's about 90 minutes, I would say, if I had to guess. Finally, on the structures, the students we use for the management of assignments, the provision of feedback, etc. We use the Columbia Business School learning management platform. It happens to be called Canvas. You know, very similar. I'm sure a lot of your students in the high school are working with learning management systems in the schools. You know, it's very ubiquitous in high schools today, and we have, you know, we have our own version here that we use. The students are onboarded onto our, you know, it says Columbia Business School. It is literally the same one I use for the MBA, and you're getting to see an example of that right now for the current class. And then we conduct the class. We've been using GoToMeeting, the one that you're on right now, but we have other alternatives. It really depends on everybody's internet and how things are going. But in this day and age, there are some good platforms that the university we use at the university. So it really just depends on what's going to work the best for the situation. Right now, again, you're seeing the Canvas on the screen, or in the room, you're seeing the slides, the actual assignments. It's very small for me, but you see the list of assignments that will happen across the week. This is a specific assignment. You see the highlighting of the worksheet. This is where they submit. And then, and by the way, pretty much every assignment not only has a worksheet, but also has a short video where I describe what needs to be thought about, you know, sort of what's the important sort of this important outcome that has to occur within this particular assignment. And then the students upload the assignment. I don't know, can you upload, can you show SpeedGrader by any chance? Can you go back?
Sure, Dr. Jack. Let me just show it to you.
Yeah. No, you're not forwarding it to me. You're just doing it, right? Just go back to where you were. Yeah, go to SpeedGrader. And let me see what I can see here. Yeah, so again, this was an assignment. Again, here's the worksheet was filled out. And then you'll see, not to play it, but just you'll see that that's my video feedback back to them. So I reviewed this worksheet and then provided that information to that student. And again, I don't know if you want to play it, but just give you a sense. So anyway, you can turn that off. So that'll give you a sense. So okay, so I think I've answered those questions. What other questions might you guys have?
I see that there's a couple of others on the GoToMeeting. Miss Aisha or Miss Bushra, if you guys have any questions from your end, we'd be happy to answer those. Professor, there was a question here that what happens if they miss a session?
Yeah, so we've been, at least so far, what we do is, just for this purpose, we will record the session and hold on to it for, you know, I don't know, a couple of weeks, just in case someone misses it, and then we don't keep it anymore because there's no need to keep them. But yeah, if you miss a class, you can certainly, what we try to do, let's start with this, and this is, Ramnik and Mayank, but what they try to do is organize, choose the dates that work for the students and the teachers and the class, or the schools, I should say. So work around, holidays, religious holidays, exams, school exams or whatever, and create the 10 dates. And then everybody knows what they are and kind of agrees to it. Of course, if someone needs to travel or someone has some sort of health challenge, then you can certainly watch the class, that particular class on the video, the recorded.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd mentioned that we keep the video for a week because we'd like the students, if they've missed anything, not to sort of lag behind. So the video stays for a week, and then we have the next session, so we'll have to put the next video on. That's why. So Professor, we have a question on the Skype chat.
Yeah. Hold on. What happened to what is the question? Sorry, I lost my chat.
So, no, I'll read it out. It says, how many intakes are there this year? There are exams in December and April, and then in May.
Okay, and intakes means what? Means how many sessions? Ramnik?
I'm actually just typing that question as well because I had the same question for, I believe it's Miss Bushra who actually put that question in.
Yeah. So, commencement of program. So I guess, yeah, it's individual cohorts or whatever. I mean, this is growing. So, but I think Ramnik, in this region, what are we looking at? Quarterly?
Yes, we're looking at a quarterly cohort, and what we're looking at is our cohort size is about 35 to 40 students. We've, as the professor said, this has been growing, so we're looking at we could have multiple cohorts going, which may start, after a week or 2 weeks or so. But yeah, we're looking at a quarterly at the moment. Of course, we understand that there are exams, and then there are other commitments as well here. So so we keep that in mind. The January window is there. We've kept that window because we want to make sure that we get a session before the summer holidays and before Ramadan actually kicks in. So that's why the January window is open. Just like how the October cohort is going on, there are some public holidays in the middle, so we have been flexible in sort of making sure that we're moving around any session that may fall in a holiday or may be during an examination. So that flexibility is there during the course as well.
The answer is I've been there a few times, so it's I do come around at different points. I think it's just a matter of when the class is, how many students are there, is there a way to sort of coordinate a visit, because right now students are coming from both Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and so would everybody come to a central location? I mean, it'd be some logistics, but Bushra, definitely, you kidding? I love coming out to the Emirates, so it's not a problem. You don't have to ask me twice. I like to come, and I've been there and have taught physically there a couple of times actually. So I'm sure all those things will happen over time. You're welcome to come to New York too, by the way. Come say hello to me on campus.
Okay, so we are good from here, Professor Jack, unless Bushra or Miss Aisha or anybody else have any other questions.
Ramnik, do you want to take that one?
Yeah. Yeah. So the fee structure is that the course is 4,000 dirhams. If the students can register before December 15th, so before they break for the winners, there is a 10% discount. There are options to pay online, and I can share the link with you after this. And there's options to pay online. There's different options. There's also options to pay through checks. So if somebody prefers to do that, they can do that as well. And regarding how the capital works for the business model, Professor Jack, do you want to take that question? I need a little more clarity actually on that question.
I'm not sure I understand the question, to be honest with you. I mean, basically, what we've done, Aisha, is find a pricing that we think is affordable for the market, and this is what you're paying for is instructors, platform usage, the brand of Columbia Business School and Columbia University, etc. So I mean, quite frankly, if I look at how much the high school program costs, on campus, this is actually a pretty good deal, because you'd be paying the on-campus programs usually run around $8,000–9,000 for the same content in U.S. dollars, right? 8,000–9,000.
Yeah. Thanks, Professor. Thanks for that. Yeah. Okay, I think that's about it, unless anybody else has any questions. Oh, I think all right. I think we're good. I'd like to thank Professor Jack. Thanks for taking the time out. Thanks everybody to take the time out. I know this is the middle of the week and everybody has sort of work, and so we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules. We will share the recording, and of course, I'm based out of out of Dubai. So if there's any questions, I'll put my number as well in case you want to talk about anything. And we look forward to the students joining our January cohort. Thanks, Ms. Aisha. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. We'll take care. Thanks, Professor. We'll touch base later.
Okay. Yep. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.